Hi, my name is Karine,
And my name's Bianca.
and today we're going to walk you through how to sew our Sahaara Wirefree bra.
This is a beginner-friendly pattern featuring 3 views: sheer tulle, full solids, or full lace. The features include a low-cut neckline and minimal design to give you the perfect relaxed look without compromising comfort and support. Our cup sizes range from a double A cup all the way to an N cup, and our band sizes range from a 24 to 46 inch ribcage. In this video, we'll be walking you through how to make the Sahaara Solids View B with waistband elastic. Our pattern and tutorials for the other views can be found in the description below or on our website at rubiesbras.com/tutorials. Let's get started. Let's start with finding your size. We recommend wearing your best fitting non-padded bra as you measure yourself. We'll be taking 2 measurements. The first measurement will be your full bust, and the second measurement will be your ribcage. Let's measure your full bust first, which will help determine your cup size. Place your tape measure around the fullest part of your bust and measure around your entire body, keeping the tape parallel to the ground. If you fall between whole numbers, choose the larger of the two. Here, Karine measures at 34 inches. Next, let's measure your ribcage. This number will indicate your band size and also help determine your cup size. Placing your tape measure at the bottom of your waterline or breast root, measure around your entire body, keeping the tape parallel to the ground. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out so you can neutralize before measuring. The tape should be comfortably snug, just like a bra band. Not too loose and not too tight. If you fall between sizes, round towards the lower number. Here, Karine is measuring at 30 inches. Now it's time to calculate your cup size. Subtract your ribcage measurement from your full bust measurement, then use our chart as a reference. Karine's full bust was a 34, and her ribcage was a 30, so the difference is 4 inches, indicating that she's a C cup, making her pattern size a 30C. Now we simply print out the corresponding pages with our size and cut out the pieces. Here's what your pattern should look like laid out together. Today we'll be making View B with a waistband elastic. Please note that each view and size category has its own requirements for fabric and notions, so please refer to the materials list in the manual. Here are the materials we'll need. 1 yard of low stretch fabric like stretch satin, duplex, or micro duplex, half a yard of power net, 2.5 yards of fold over elastic, half a yard of twill or stabilizer tape, half a yard of half-inch elastic, 1 set of 3x3 hook and eye closure, 4 rings, and 2 sliders. We are proud to source our materials from women-led businesses. Please see our website for a full list of our Sahaara bra sewing kit suppliers. For this kit, our fabrics are from bra builders. Next, the tools you will need are a cutting mat, fabric shears, a rotary cutter, thread snips, a seam ripper, pins, 90/14 stretch mesh needles, a loop turner, or a safety pin. Before we cut the fabric, here's some important tips to know. For the cups, we'll be using micro duplex, which is one of the best fabrics to use for bra cups. It is opaque and low stretch, providing coverage and support for any bust size. There's a natural give in the fabric, but little to no stretch as you can see here, so there's no need for a lining to stabilize the stretch. So your pattern will be placed in the direction of the greatest stretch, also known as the dogs, which is in line with the grain line and perpendicular to the selvage edge. The selvage is a natural edge of a fabric. For the backband, we'll be using power net. You're welcome to use a different fabric if you would like, but it's important that it has spandex in it and at least a 25-degree percentage of stretch. When using power net, you want to cut along the grain line, which appears as a brick-like structure. This is because the grain line has a much more stable stretch compared to the crosswise grain. You'll need to then place the pattern like this. Now let's get to cutting. We recommend our following cutting layout in the manual for the best usage of our fabric space and for visual aid. Next, we have the backband, and we'll trace it out on the grain line of the power net mentioned earlier and then cut. Once you're done, you should have one bra frame piece, 2 outer cup pieces, 2 inner cup pieces, 2 backbands, and 2 front straps. Now it's time to assemble the cups. Let's first check to make sure that we have the right sides and wrong sides facing the right way. For duplex, any side can be used, but we like the matte side better. So, our right side is a matte side and our wrong side is a more shiny side. Now let's pin the inner and outer cups together to make sure there's no shifting of the fabrics when sewing. Here's what your pin cup should look like. Now let's get to sewing. Sew the inner and outer right sides together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance using a straight stitch length of 2.5 and a width of 0, making sure that the notches line up. Don't forget to backstitch. Here's what the first cup should look like. Now let's do the other cup. Here's what your 2 cups should look like. Now let's unfold the cup and press the seam allowance towards the other cup. On the outer cup side of the seam allowance, top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the seam line. Then sew a second top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the first. Doing so will secure the raw edges and strengthen the cross cup seam. Our top stitch length is 2.5 with a width of 0. Here's what your finished cup should look like. Now we are going to be sewing the fold over elastic along the inner cup edge. This will finish the neckline. We'll be using a zigzag stitch with a length of 2.5 and a width of 1.5. I recommend stitching a little bit of the elastic before inserting the cup to reduce the initial bulk. Make sure that the edge of the elastic stitch stays as close to the edge of the elastic without going over into the cup fabric, but still covering the twill tape. Be sure to leave an inch-long tail, which we will loop around a ring later on. Don't forget to backstitch. Here's what your first cup should look like. Notice how close the edge of the zigzag stitch is to the edge of the elastic without going over the edge. Let's repeat with the second cup. Here's what your cups should look like. Now let's attach our cups to the frame. Lining up the cross cup seam at the notch, let's pin the cups in place first. Double check that the correct cup is placed on the correct side of the frame. This means that the fold-over edge of the cup should face towards the center front. You want to align the neckline edge of the cup with the mark you've made in your frame like so. Pin in place and then move to the underarm side of the cup and secure it with a pin as well. Next, line up the notch on the frame with the cup seam line and pin in place. Once the 3 main pins are put in place, feel free to use more pins along the wire line as needed. I usually use 2 pins in between the center front pin and the notch pin, and another 2 pins in between the notch pin and the underarm pin. Here's what your pinned up cups and frame should look like. Now let's change up our stitch to a straight stitch and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance using a stitch length of 2.5 and a width of 0. Make sure to leave a 1/4 inch of space at the center front for the second cup. Be sure to stay stitch at the center front of the inner cup to the duplex for additional stability. Don't forget to backstitch. Here's what your first sewn-in cup should look like. Now let's sew the second cup onto the frame at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Here's what your sewn-in cup should look like. Now let's press the seam allowance towards the front frame and top stitch the front frame 1/8 of an inch from the seam line. Be sure to pivot with your needle down when you reach the center front. We'll use a top stitch length of 2.5 and a width of 0. And then do a second line of top stitching 1/8 of an inch away from the first line. Here's what your finished cups and frame should look like. Let's all admire the nice sharp tip in the middle. Don't worry if you don't get it as pointy as this the first time. We've had lots of practice. And we've seen makes just as nice with a less sharp tip. This is what you should have so far. We have the cup sewn into the bra frame and we top stitched it along the wire line. Next step is attaching the backband. We want to make sure that this curve is facing upward and we are going to put the right sides together. Line up the edges and sew it at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance using a straight stitch length of 2.5 and a width of 0. Don't forget to backstitch. Here's what your finished backband should look like attached to the frame. Now, we'll double top stitch the edge using a top stitch length of 2.5 and a width of 0. The first stitch will be a little less than 1/8 from the seam, as you want it as close to the edge as possible. The second one will be just over 1/8 of an inch away. Here's the finished look. Now that we have our cups, our bra frame, and our backband sewn together, we'll finish the underarms with fold-over elastic. We'll be using the exact same zigzag stitch settings as the neckline edge using a length of 2.5 and a width of 1.5. For the left side of your bra, we'll be starting from the backband and working our way to the front strap and up the tail. Like we did before, you want to stitch some of the elastic first before sandwiching the bra in between the fold. And you just want to pull the other side so it catches the power net. Don't pull the elastic, just hold it taut and simply follow the curve. And don't forget to backstitch. Once you reach the edge, raise your presser foot and snip your threads and the tail. Here's what it should look like. Now let's do the next side, but start from the tail and sew towards the backband. Here's what the underarm elastic should look like. Now let's attach the waistband elastic. Lay the edge of the waistband elastic along the inside edge of the bra. Do one pass of zigzag stitching, half of an inch away from the edge. Here's what the first pass should look like. Now, flip the elastic so that the raw edges are now tucked in between the elastic and the outer frame. Do one more zigzag stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the elastic edge. Pull the fabric on both sides so that the fold on the inner edge is nice and tight. Here's what the finished hem should look like. And now we're done with the bulk of the bra. Let's now create the straps of the bra. Cut the appropriate strap piece of micro duplex or any low stretch fabric based on the width of your strap elastic. Here we are using a 1/2 inch finished strap width. You can increase or decrease the length of the strap based on your own measurements. Standard for Rubies is 9 inches cut length, so we'll be using a 9-inch front strap and back strap for a bra. You can use another material or elastic for your front straps, but we suggest you use a low stretch or stabilized fabric on the inside, as it is important that the front straps are stable enough to provide support and lift and prevent unwanted bouncing. We'll now fold these pieces in half with right sides together, align the edges, and sew with a straight stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance using a straight stitch length of 2.5 and a width of 0. Don't forget to backstitch. Now, you're going to want to grab either a loop turner or a safety pin like I have here and turn the piece inside out. Here's what the strap should look like. Once you have finished turning, use your fingers and press in nice and flat, making sure that the seam sits in the middle. Feel free to give it a good iron press if you need. This will clean up the look and hide the seam when you wear it. Now we'll top stitch along the length of the strap at 1/8 of an inch on each side using a straight stitch length of 2.5 and a width of 0. Here's what the first side should look like. And now let's do the same on the other side. You should have 2 front straps that look like this once you're done. Next, let's attach the rings. First, loop the tail we created through the ring all the way until you can't pull down anymore without wrinkles. Then fold downwards towards the back and straight stitch just below the bottom edge of the ring, where all the fold-over elastic intersects the underarm, neckline, and tail. Let's do that now. Here's what it should look like. Once the loop is in place, trim the excess as close as possible and do a satin stitch to cover the edge for a nice clean, ready-to-wear look. Our satin stitch is a very tight zigzag stitch with a length of 2.5 and a width of 0.3. So as you can see, I've stitched the loop down here and then satin stitched over the top of the raw edge to cover it and give it a nice, clean, finished look. You'll use the same technique to sew the straps to the loop as well. We have a close-up here so you can see what that should look like. Make sure the fold is about 1/2 inch long from the edge of the ring and that you stitch as close to the edge as possible, around 1/8 of an inch, and satin stitch to finish. Here's what the finished front strap should look like. Now it's time to assemble the back straps. You'll need a 9-inch bra elastic or whatever size you measure, and in this case I'm using 1/2 inch wide elastic. You'll also need 1 slider and 1 ring per strap. If you look over here, this is an example of the assembled strap, and this allows you to tighten or loosen your straps as necessary. Now let's assemble our back straps. First, feed the elastic through one of the holes of the slider with the shiny side facing out and plush side facing in, looping it back through and leaving about 1/2 inch folded over like this. Now we will straight stitch at 1/8 of an inch away from the raw edge, and then finish with the satin stitch just like we did before. Here's what the strap should look like. Now we take our ring and loop our strap through. And with the wrong side facing in, we'll loop the strap back through both holes of the slider. And there you have your assembled strap. Here's what your finished back strap should look like. Now with your assembled cup, we're going to apply it to the outer edge of the backband, and rather than walking the elastic up the backband, we're going to walk the backband to match the elastic. The back strap elastic has a natural curve that doesn't like to change its shape, so following it rather than forcing it to curve makes it for easier sewing. Now we'll sew with a zigzag stitch that forms a U shape. We'll go up, across the strap at a slight angle, then back down, pivoting at each corner with our needle down. Here's what the finished stitch should look like. So now we have the finished front strap and back strap, and we're going to loop the front strap through the back strap ring and sew the straight stitch and satin stitch once more. Remember to leave about a ½ inch fold. Don't forget to back stitch. Here's what the finished back strap should look like. Finally, we've reached the last step, which is a hook and eye closure. Now, open the flap of the eye side of the hook and eye. You'll use this to encase the raw edge of the backband. Attach to the backband with a straight stitch about ¼ inch away from the flap's edge. Let's do this now. Now, we'll finish our hook and eyes with a zigzag stitch going over that folded edge. Our zigzag stitch will be tighter here to achieve a clean, ready-to-wear look and to prevent any itchiness or discomfort from the sharp edges that sometimes result with the heat sealing. Let's do this now. For the hooks, you're going to do the same sandwich and stitch over the flaps on the right side of the bra. Let's do this now. And here's what your almost finished bra should look like. The final step is doing a once over to make sure all the threads are trimmed and everything is sitting nicely. Congratulations on completing your Sahaara bra. We hope that you found this video helpful and we can't wait to see your creations. Tell us in the comments below what you think and be sure to send us your makes or tag us when sharing so we can see too. If you have any questions or need more help, don't hesitate to reach out to us directly by visiting our website at rubiesbras.com. See you next time!